He thought he knew his life down to the last detail. A stable job, a cozy home, 2 children with his wife's eyes, and a habit of curling up next to him before bed. But everything began to unravel the moment he spotted a shiny scrap of foil on the bathroom floor. A small detail, nearly invisible, yet it opened the door to an abyss. No shouting, no drama, just a cold suspicion growing like ice in his chest. Every step forward pulled him further from peace and closer to revelations he could no longer ignore. Hidden cameras, secret phones, tests that couldn't be dismissed. When the truth finally came to light, it didn't just destroy his marriage. It shattered the very foundation of his fatherhood. Who were they now? The children he had raised with love. Who was she? The woman he had once called family. And how do you rebuild something that may have been built on lies from the very start? The answers are here. Shocking, painful, but undeniably real. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from. Now, let's get started. I always pictured life-changing moments as loud, dramatic, and impossible to miss. Something out of a movie, full of shouting or high-stakes chaos. But when everything began to unravel for me, it started in the quietest, most mundane way. A tiny scrap of foil on the bathroom floor. It shimmered faintly in the early sunlight slicing through the blinds, just enough to catch my eye as I stepped in. The overhead light was still off, and the beam of sun highlighted the foil like a spotlight on a stage. I froze for a second, careful not to step on anything sharp. Vivian hadn't mentioned losing anything, though it wouldn't be the first time something random ended up out of place. I bent down to get a closer look. It was a small, circular foil disc, no bigger than the nail on my pinky. There was something familiar about it, the kind of familiarity that gnaws at the edge of memory. It resembled the foil left behind after pressing a pill through a blister pack. One side was blank. The other was stamped with a simple number. 2. That gave me pause. It was Wednesday. A foil marked 2 likely came from Tuesday's dose. I wasn't taking any medication regularly. At 35, I was healthy, maybe took the occasional ibuprofen, but nothing daily. As far as I knew, Vivian wasn't on any daily meds either. We'd both had our annual checkups recently, both declared fit. So what was a piece of a Tuesday pill pack doing on our bathroom floor? I tried to dismiss it. Maybe it came from a supplement or something of the kids, like their chewable vitamins. But something about it didn't sit right. That quiet, creeping discomfort in my gut wouldn't leave. Years ago, the only consistent medication in the house had been Vivian's birth control, until we decided we were done having kids, and I got a vasectomy. She'd stayed on the pill for years, but after my procedure, there hadn't been a reason for her to continue. Or so I thought. Now I was holding something that suggested she hadn't stopped. The realization hit like cold water. If she was still taking the pill, that left 2 unsettling possibilities. Either she didn't believe my vasectomy worked, or she had a different reason altogether for avoiding pregnancy. Ordinarily, I might have just asked her, but something told me not to. Maybe it was the years I'd spent as an engineer, trained to test and verify before drawing conclusions. I needed more than a hunch. So I carefully placed the foil back where I found it, reset the room like nothing had happened, and drove to work with my mind racing. That day, I ignored the mountain of paperwork waiting on my desk. Instead, I opened my laptop and began researching private DNA tests and covert surveillance equipment. I hated that my thoughts had shifted so quickly toward mistrust, but I couldn't pretend this wasn't happening. If there was even a remote possibility Vivian had been unfaithful, if there was even a sliver of doubt about Jasper and Scarlett being mine. Jasper was 5, Scarlett 3. I had never questioned that they were my children. But if Vivian had kept something as significant as continuing the pill a secret, what else could she be hiding? I ordered a variety of gear, discreet voice recorders, miniature hidden cameras, phone cloning tools, and at-home DNA kits. The whole process made me feel physically sick, like I was betraying my own sense of morality. But I needed answers, and I wasn't about to confront her without proof. Waiting for the packages to arrive felt like the longest stretch of my life. In the meantime, I watched Vivian more closely. Her patterns, her behavior, her tone. But nothing seemed out of the ordinary. She moved through her days the same way she always had. No sudden changes to her schedule, no suspicious absences. We were still intimate, maybe once or twice a week, usually early mornings before the kids woke up. She hadn't changed her perfume. She didn't come home smelling like someone else. She wasn't acting distant or overly affectionate. If she was hiding something, she was doing it flawlessly. On Friday, I got the call. The equipment had arrived. I had it all delivered to my office to avoid raising any flags. That afternoon, I told Vivian I had a light workload and left early. When I got home, the au pair was busy feeding the kids, which gave me the chance I needed to install the surveillance gear. I placed the cameras in high-traffic areas, the bathroom, bedroom, and living room. If there was something to catch, I wanted the best odds of capturing it. The bathroom camera was critical. If she really was taking a daily pill, that's where I'd see it. That night, after we tucked the kids into bed, I carefully swabbed their cheeks for the DNA tests. I did mine too. To them, it was just a silly little game with Daddy and some cotton swabs. I sealed the samples, labeled them, and sent them off. According to the lab, I'd have the results 2 days after they received everything. That night unfolded like any other. Vivian returned home on time. We talked about our days, shared a few laughs, debated what show to watch. I smiled when I needed to, acted normal, but inside, I felt completely disconnected, like I was watching someone else live my life. While she showered, I slipped out to her car and placed a voice recorder under the driver's seat. I also cloned her phone during a window of access, copying her texts, call logs, and emails. I scrolled through them, half expecting something incriminating to leap off the screen. But there was nothing. No flirty messages, no unfamiliar numbers, no strange late-night activity. Either she was innocent or she was being incredibly careful. The weekend passed without incident. We followed our usual routine, running errands, taking the kids to the park, doing household chores. We once had intimacy, perhaps more out of habit than desire. I kept up appearances, but deep down I was barely holding back. Monday morning, I told her I'd be working from home. As soon as she left, I collected the memory cards from the cameras and uploaded the footage to my laptop. And there it was, undeniable, caught on camera every single morning. Vivian, taking a small white pill. The truth hit like a gut punch. She had resumed taking birth control. I barely had time to process it before forcing myself to press on. The next clue was hidden in the footage from the bedroom camera. Saturday night, while I was in the kitchen prepping dinner, she emerged from the shower, walked straight into the bedroom, and typed something into a phone I didn't recognize. It wasn't the device I had synced. She had another phone, one I'd never known about. I stared at the screen as she gently tucked it inside the air conditioning vent. Suddenly, the pieces clicked together. Her main phone had been spotless because it wasn't her actual phone. Naturally, she'd keep a second phone hidden from me. I had to know what was on it. That same night, once she was asleep, I quietly accessed the vent from Scarlett's room, but it wasn't there. She must have moved it, maybe back into her purse or some new hiding spot. I waited. A few days later, another window opened. Vivian was in the shower, the sound of water loud enough to cover my movements. I quietly opened the vent again. This time, the phone was inside. I snatched it, hurried to my office, and began cloning the data to a spare device. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. The adrenaline made every breath shallow and tight. Just as I wrapped up, the water stopped running. I had seconds. I slipped back into Scarlett's room. settled in beside her like I'd been sitting there all along. Vivian peeked through the door, eyeing me curiously. I stayed cool, just a dad checking on his daughter. She moved on without a word. The following morning, in the silence of my office, I opened the copy of the phone's data. It didn't take long before my eyes filled with tears. Everything I had dreaded was true. The messages were explicit, vivid accounts of hotel hookups and sexual encounters between Vivian and another man. They joked about how clueless I was, planned their meetings around my work trips. No name was ever mentioned, which only confirmed the worst. It was someone close, someone whose identity she couldn't risk putting in writing. I broke down at my desk, sobbing uncontrollably, oblivious to Monica's voice over the intercom. Eventually, she stepped into the room, found me doubled over in tears, and quietly shut the door behind her. Monica, sharp, poised, a few years older than me, had always maintained a strictly professional relationship. But in that moment, she crossed the line. She walked in, locked the door, and handed me a box of tissues. "What's going on?" she asked, her tone gentle but steady. I poured it all out, the mystery pills, the strange packaging, the surveillance, the secret phone. I felt like a shattered man, barely holding it together. But Monica didn't flinch. "Okay," she said firmly. "We need facts and a plan." I told her I'd ordered DNA tests for the kids too. She nodded approvingly. "Smart move. First, you get the truth. Then you act. But for now, there's something else. Portland office needs you. You're flying out today. Back Thursday." I frowned. "Wait, what? I didn't schedule that." She was already typing. "Just go with it. Being around too much might tip her off. Say it's an emergency at the branch." She crafted the message on my phone and sent it to Vivian herself. Vivian replied quickly, full of concern, hoping everything was okay and that I'd be home soon. Monica then handed me a contact, Lorraine, a divorce attorney who had guided her through her own painful separation. That same day, still emotionally numb, I found myself sitting in Lorraine's office. Lorraine listened carefully. Her questions were sharp, efficient. She walked me through my legal options. I had 3 paths: stay silent and do nothing, file for a peaceful, mutual separation, or go full force with a legal case for adultery that would leave Vivian with virtually nothing. Doing nothing wasn't an option. I was seething. A friendly split? Why should I hand over half my life's work, especially if the kids turned out not to be mine? My decision came easily. "I want to go scorched earth," I told her, voice trembling with anger. She nodded. "Then we build a case. Give me the phone." Without hesitation, I handed it over. Monica picked me up afterward and drove me to a modest hotel. She made me swear I'd shower, order a proper meal, and avoid the minibar. "I need your head clear," she said. "This is just the beginning. You need to stay sharp." But sharpness eluded me. My world had just imploded. The only thing keeping me upright was a fragile thread of hope that the kids were mine, or that somehow I'd been wrong. Deep down, though, I already knew. The next morning, I got a message from the lab. The DNA results would be ready by the afternoon. I couldn't bring myself to check. Monica noticed and gently took the phone, glanced at the screen. "Not posted yet," she said, handing it back softly. "We'll check again soon." In the meantime, we had bigger concerns, like safeguarding my business. Monica reminded me that our engineering firm wasn't just mine. Over 100 employees and their families depended on it. If Vivian walked away with too much, everything could unravel. That snapped me out of the fog. I had to force myself into the mindset of an engineer, logical, calculated, focused on breaking things down step by step. My first action was to meet with Brian Spencer, my longtime corporate attorney. He reminded me that I had a prenuptial agreement in place. At our firm, every partner was required to sign one before tying the knot, a legal precaution designed to insulate the business from any marital fallout. The prenup meant Vivian had no claim to the company, She could only pursue my individual income and personal assets, the house, the savings, the retirement account. Brian got straight to the point. "Here's what I suggest," he said. "Buy out Robert. He's been dropping hints he's ready to walk away. Sink every available dollar into the company, even if you have to take on debt. That'll put your money behind a legal barrier." It was a bold maneuver, but letting her take half wasn't on the table. I called Robert. His question was immediate. "Why now?" I didn't hold back. "Vivian's been cheating, maybe since day one." There was a moment of silence. Then he offered his sympathy and agreed to sell most of his shares, keeping just 5% so he could remain as a consultant. We got the ball rolling on the paperwork. Later that afternoon, I had lunch with Monica, and we checked the DNA results again. This time, they were posted. She looked first. Her expression collapsed. "I'm sorry, Grant." My fingers were unsteady as I took her phone. The verdict was undeniable. Both children shared the same biological father, and it wasn't me. The boy and girl I had cherished, celebrated, and raised weren't mine. The weight of that truth hit me like a freight train. Monica's voice cut through the mental chaos. "You need to stay focused. She'll come for everything if you don't." She helped me out of the restaurant and into Lorraine's office. Lorraine had news waiting. "The investigator has a preliminary report," she said. "Vivian had a man over at your house last night. He had a key, let himself in. We couldn't see inside, but he was definitely expected." Nausea twisted in my gut. Later, I reviewed the security footage from the living room camera. There he was, walking in like he belonged, and being welcomed by our son. Correction, her son. The boy ran up to him and shouted, "Daddy Brandon!" Tears came hard and fast, and in that instant, the whole story clicked into place. The man was Brandon Whitmore, Vivian's boss. Their relationship hadn't been a recent betrayal. It had likely lasted the entire span of our marriage. Lorraine ran a background check. Brandon was a senior executive at her company, and the firm had a strict no fraternization policy. "We can sue," Lorraine said, "for negligence and failure to enforce their conduct rules. And we go after Brandon for alienation of affection, and Vivian for paternity fraud." She launched into an aggressive legal strategy. She was fully in, no hesitation. I'd chosen to go scorched earth, and she was ready to go with me. Back at the hotel, I sat in a numb silence. That evening, Monica showed up at the door. "You shouldn't be alone," she said. "Pack a bag. You're staying at my place." I didn't argue. I didn't have the energy. Her house was a calm, open space. She gave me a private room. There was no pressure, no questions. Just the quiet presence of someone who knew I was barely holding on. The next step was closing the buyout with Robert. Every dollar of personal wealth had to be redirected into the company, restructuring everything to show me as nearly penniless on paper. I liquidated my savings, cashed out my retirement, penalties and all, and started refinancing the house. By the end, my financial footprint would be lean, protected, and legally defensible. Because of the prenup, and because all of this happened before the divorce was filed, it was airtight. Brian handled the contracts. Robert signed. I became the majority shareholder. Almost everything I owned was now shielded under the company's name, and untouchable. Monday morning, Lorraine filed the divorce petition. Grounds: infidelity, deception, and emotional harm. Simultaneously, she filed suit against Brandon's employer for corporate misconduct. Process servers were already dispatched, one to Brandon's office, another to HR, and the last to Vivian directly. I watched the clock. At exactly 10:01 a.m., my phone buzzed. Vivian had officially been served. Moments later, the lawsuits hit. Then my phone rang again, but it wasn't her. It was my mother. "Grant," she said, voice tense. "What is this?" "Hey, Mom. We got your letter. Your father saw it too. Are you really doing this?" "Did you read it?" I asked. "I did," she replied quietly, "but I can't accept it." She's your wife, and those children, they're your children. No, I said. They're not mine. There was a pause. Then, gently, in every way that matters, they are. No, I said again. Not anymore. You were the one who brought them up. From the instant they came into the world, you were their father. Doesn't that count for something? It means everything. But it was all founded on a lie. Her breathing grew heavier over the phone line. So that's it? You're just walking away like none of it mattered? You're abandoning them because of what Vivian did? You really believe they won't be crushed when you suddenly decide you're no longer their dad? What do you even mean by that? I shouted. I can't lose my grandchildren over this. You won't, she replied calmly. Then don't let it come to that, I told her. That's not my choice to make. I have to go. Grant. I ended the call. The phone lit up again almost immediately. It was Vivian. Grant, we need to talk, she said, her voice trembling. I'm coming back to the house. I said nothing, just hung up. That word, house, it still hit hard. She called it home. Technically, it still was. We'd built that life together. Monica gave me a quick, tight hug on her way out, leaving me to face Vivian alone. I waited in the study, sifting through a flood of emails from relatives who had received the packet of documents. My dad was furious. My sister, too. Around 20 minutes later, Vivian barged in, slamming the door shut behind her. She looked wrecked, hair unbrushed, panic in her eyes. Grant, please, she started. I'm not interested, I cut her off. But I said no. You won't even hear. No. My voice was flat. You deceived me for nearly 10 years. Those kids, neither one shares a drop of my blood. And on top of it all, you convinced me to get a vasectomy while secretly staying on birth control, just so you could keep sleeping with dear old Daddy Brandon. Her face went pale, shocked. So no, Vivian, I said, voice hard. I don't want to hear a damn word. You got served. My lawyer's details are in the envelope. Direct any concerns to her. And the kids? She asked softly. What kids? I snapped. I don't have any children. And thanks to you, I probably never will. I could ask why you would do this to me. But I already know whatever you say will be another lie. I don't want justifications. I don't need your excuses. I want this nightmare over so I can start picking up the pieces of whatever life I have left. I called out for the au pair. The door was open. She was only a few feet away in the next room. You're dismissed, I said flatly. Effective immediately. Start packing. What? She gasped. Why? Because you helped cover it all up, I said, motioning toward Vivian. You knew she was screwing her boss. Maybe you didn't know the truth about the kids, but you were definitely aware something was going on. I've got footage of you chatting about it with Brandon. Get out. Grant, Vivian interjected. You can't just fire her. I'm the one who signs her checks. The au pair looked at her with a strange blend of gratitude and dread. Well, I said, I already contacted the agency, told them about your little affair. They agreed to keep things quiet if I dropped the complaint, and they dropped her. So if you still want her around, Vivian, you'll need to pay her yourself. That includes taxes, vacation time, benefits, everything. The au pair's face went ghost white. This wasn't just a firing. It was career-ending. Agencies shared this kind of dirt. Out, I said again. No further explanation needed. She grabbed her things and fled. Was that really necessary? Vivian asked. She didn't. You're still talking, I snapped. I told you I didn't want to hear it. What I do want is for you to take your stuff, take your kids, and get the hell out of my house. This is my home too, she hissed. Not legally, I replied, my voice cold. The deed's in my name. Until a judge says different, this place is mine. She flinched as I raised my voice. Just then, Jasper entered the room. Mommy, he said. Scarlett fell down. Tears in her eyes, Vivian got up and rushed out to help her daughter. I shut the office door behind her and didn't move. I sat there in silence. A few minutes later, she came back, carrying Scarlett in her arms. "You're really not going to say goodbye to—" "Don't," I warned her. She's not my daughter. He's not my son. Take them to the man who actually fathered them. Let Brandon deal with the consequences of his choices. They're not mine anymore. Grant, please. Leave." The door closed behind them, and the second it did, I completely fell apart. Not long after, Monica stepped inside quietly. She had lingered nearby, expecting I might fall apart once I was alone. When I did, she was there, wrapping her arms around me in a way that somehow steadied me. We both listened as the car's engine faded into silence. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing, but I ignored every call. For the first time in a long while, I had an overwhelming urge to vanish from my own life. Ever composed and unwavering, Monica gently pulled me back to reality. There was still work to do, HR reports to finish, financial matters to lock down, and the beginnings of legal action to set in motion. Hours later, an email popped up in my inbox. Vivian had filed for a restraining order, claiming emotional trauma. It barred me from entering my own home until a judge could weigh in. It was a strategic maneuver, no doubt crafted by her lawyer to paint her as the injured party. But Lorraine acted swiftly, presenting the court with the surveillance footage I had installed, the evidence I had gathered, and the violations I had exposed. The judge dismissed the order soon after. Vivian went to stay with her parents. Brandon, on the other hand, was fired. His employer had confirmed he had blatantly violated the company's strict non-fraternization rules by engaging in a relationship with a subordinate, one that had resulted in 2 children. Legal battles broke out on all sides. Eventually, Brandon's former employer agreed to a substantial settlement in my favor. On top of that, under our state's alienation of affection statute, Brandon was ordered to pay damages himself, a payout that allowed me to repay the pension loan I'd taken to survive. But none of it really registered. What devastated me most was the loss of Jasper and Scarlett. I still loved them deeply, but I couldn't bring myself to see them. The hurt was too fresh, too deep. Maybe it made me a coward, but every time I imagined their faces, all I could see was his. I figured they'd eventually forget me anyway. Vivian tried to use them to keep me tied to her life, pleading with me to remain in contact, for their sake. I couldn't. Not yet. Weeks slipped by, and before long, a month had passed. I sold the house, took a financial hit. But it didn't matter. That place had become a shrine to deception. I moved into Monica's spare bedroom for a while. We kept things cordial, respectful, though something between us had undeniably changed. At work, she remained the professional everyone knew. At home, she was quietly watchful, always there, always checking in without saying much. The divorce became official on a Tuesday. I was sitting at my desk when the envelope arrived. I opened it, scanned the decree, and just like that, I wasn't married to Vivian anymore. A wave of emotion rolled over me, part grief, part relief. My phone rang. I picked up. Monica's voice came through, calm and measured. "Brandon Whitmore is dead. His wife caught him with Vivian again. She shot him." I sat frozen. The bitter irony hit me like a slap. He'd never get the chance to raise the children he'd fathered behind my back. I wasn't sure if it was karmic justice or simply another senseless tragedy. But I didn't feel sorry for him. Not even a little. "Well," I said quietly. "He had it coming." I braced for a rebuke from Monica, but it never came. She gave a small nod instead. A moment later, she stepped into my office with another envelope in hand. "This came for you too," she said. "Looks like the final payment from Brandon's settlement." I opened it. The check inside was more than enough to wipe out the loan completely. Just like that, the financial burden disappeared. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling deeply, overwhelmed by everything yet emotionally blank. My marriage had ended. The children I thought were mine were gone. Brandon was dead, and in some strange, twisted way, I was free. Monica quietly closed the door behind her, walked over to me, and kissed me, long and deep, with no hesitation. When she pulled back, my pulse was racing for a reason that had nothing to do with grief. She smiled, clearly sensing my shock. "I've been taking care of you for 9 years," she said softly. "You're the kindest man I've ever known. Even in your worst moments, you never crossed a line. I've been waiting, Grant. If you're ready, I want to show you that not every woman lies. Not every love ends in heartbreak." I sat there, stunned, turning over every shared moment in my mind. Her unwavering calm, her fierce loyalty, how hard she fought for me when it all came crashing down. Maybe I had been blind, so wrapped up in a broken marriage that I never saw the one person who truly had my back. I remembered what Dr. Harrington had said about reversing a vasectomy, that there was hope. A flicker of possibility stirred in my chest. Still caught in the haze of that kiss, I looked into Monica's eyes and, with a rough laugh, asked, "So, how many kids are we thinking?" She broke into a warm, radiant smile. "At least 2, she said, "but let's start slow." And right then, something shifted inside me. Everything had been turned on its head, but a new path was unfolding. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in ages, I didn't feel suffocated. I had found peace, in court, within myself, and in the truth. I would always grieve for the children I lost. But now, I also had the chance to begin again. Maybe this time, I'd build something real, with someone who never stopped standing by my side. I gave a slow nod, and Monica kissed me again. That was the moment my past finally released me, and my future began. The lies were behind me. The betrayal buried. Maybe heartbreak was the price of my freedom, and maybe, in the end, it was worth it. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you